Hey, welcome to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, along with Jeff Gerard on your place for news, talk, and information. This is AM 1220, KHTS. Safer Money Hour every week at this time comes to you about your family's finances. Of course, getting out of debt, managing your life, and really planning for a future that you don't always expect to come. Very similar to the time when your kids are going to college and you're thinking, hey, you know what, one of these days, my little kids are, they're going to clean up their mess and then one day they're gone. Right? We've all seen it where you walk that little baby to kindergarten, and you usually, at least your first one, you stick around and you have tears in your eyes, and then after a bit you say, oh my gosh, where did the time go? Retirement is just the same thing. Folks, you can start planning and saving. Things happen along the way. Job losses, divorce, death. Things occur that can really impact the choices that you make. And so we're going to get into some of those details here today, of course, with Jeff Gerard, and I'm Arif Halaby.
Arif, you bring up some great points. I think that a lot of us, what we do is we get so busy in our lives, we just park retirement and other long-term thought processes to that someday bucket. Someday I'm going to take care of that. Someday I'm going to start saving for college. But you touched on if you have these everyday occurrences happening, you have to find a way to kind of navigate through all of the distractions and basically anything that we just call life getting in the way of saving for our future, because you can read any article on the internet and it will say start early. That's the first thing, right? Start early, save as much as you can.
And look, a lot of you are in your 40s and you're considering an opportunity to retire early. I remember being 25 years old and said, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 35. And then, 31 comes and you say, that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So it has to be age 45. So those times and that attitude continues to grow. But if you're in your mid-30s to your mid-40s, we have some tips for you. Some things that I want you to start doing. Even if you are starting to plan now and you think, but it's only $25 a week, it's only $50 a week. You know what? It adds up. The number one thing I want you to do, some of you don't even have your company-sponsored retirement plan. That means the account that your employer matches. You work, they put in money. Some of you don't even start it. Well, I will next year. Oh, I will after this. Oh, after that. No. You have to start. You have to walk in the door. It's just like anything else, whether it's weight loss, whether it's, quitting smoking or cutting back on your drinking or cutting back on your sweets, whatever it might be. It's one step, one day at a time. And it needs to be that you walk in, or maybe, ladies, you have to talk to your husband about this, if he has one, or men about your wives if she has one of these accounts. You might say, I've been telling him, then you know what? You call us. You call us, you bring them in the room, we'll lock the door, and we'll say, all right, here, this is that account that we've been working on. It is the one that you have been planning for. In fact, it's the one that your employer says, look, we're offering it. You don't want it, tough luck. And matching 401k, first place.
A case example is a distant relative of mine and I just got together recently, and they were telling me about their 401k plan. And they started just with the new job about 5 years ago. And it came up because their company had been bought out by someone else. They said, hey, I have this 401k. They want me to move it. Should I move it into my new retirement plan? Should I roll it over? What are my options? And should I do anything at all or just leave it there? So we talked about some of those reasons to do, maybe the pros and cons of each of those scenarios. But the funny part to me was that you're talking about $25 a week, Arif. That's what he was putting into his paycheck, the equivalent of $25 a week. And he has, on top of that, a company match that I think is pretty attractive and pretty healthy. He's got over 5 figures in that 401k account, and it was just something that he forgot about. He had forgotten that was even there until the company said, hey, you've got to do something with this account.
The first time I noticed one of these accounts coming from out of the blue, if you will, was the time my wife had left working for one employer, went to another. It was a small doctor's office. In fact, she was the only employee besides the doctor himself. Saw very few patients. It was a cardiologist, mostly referrals, and so she handled some of the office stuff, of course. But she leaves after about 2 years, goes to another employer, and a year later, she gets a phone call from the accountant. And he says, Pam, what would you like to do with your $2,700 or something? She's like, what $2,700? He says, well, we have this company-sponsored retirement account. It's like a profit-sharing plan. What would you like to do with it? She's like, I don't know. Send it over. So one of the mistakes you can make along the way, though, is to not roll those over into your own individual retirement account. That's why there's an I in front of it, right? The individual retirement account. So often you will go through your life by the time you get to your mid-30s or your 40s, and you've had multiple retirement accounts along the way. Your job is to merge those together, bring them into one account, still have the one that you're working. Maybe you're contributing, maybe you're adding. You better be adding, especially if there's a match. But the old ones are sitting here out of the market risk, staying away from the craziness and the ups and downs of the market. And meanwhile, you're still getting that company match. Jeff, we see that a lot where people don't realize that they should consolidate or move those accounts all into one.
Well, it's a great thing to do because number one, I mean, we're giving you a couple of case examples here where people almost forget that they have the money sitting out there, whether it was the company putting money in on their behalf or they were doing it or a combination thereof. And so you have just this kind of, okay, well, I think I have money out there somewhere. I've had a few jobs, but what you're able to do is kind of bring it all together into one place. And now that's a lot less for you to manage. You don't have to worry about, is that money still there? One of the concerns that my relative had in the recent past few days was his concern was that the money wouldn't be there when he needed it, when he went to go get it. And so he was looking at some alternatives to just leaving it into the crazy up and down type of choices that company offered. So that's one of the points, is that those companies that offered those retirement plans at that time, maybe those choices and those places where you can invest the money don't match up or line up with your financial goals or your concerns at this moment in time. So bringing them all into a place where you have more control, more options, more places to put the money, I think this is a great time because remember, employer-sponsored plans, if you're actively working for this company and you're putting money in and the company's putting money in or whatever have you, that money's pretty much got to stay in that account. You don't just get to go, oh, it's like my savings. I get to go in and just take a little bit out if I need it or, put a little bit more in than I want. It's not like that. There are some rules around that. So when you separate from a company, that is a great trigger for you to say, I need to do something with this account and bring it home.
A lot of folks forget that money has a job to do. Every dollar in your life has a purpose, has a place to go. You can't confuse this. You've heard us talk about poor mindset and rich mindset. You've heard me talk about the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, the one that changed my life. Literally in like 9 months, my income changed dramatically simply because not just reading a book, anybody can read a book, but it's to read a book, implement the principles. You have to be in the right place, right? The right frame of mind. You have to be ready for that change. Make that change, make the difference. And why did it make a difference? Because I realized that there was this different thinking between a rich person, if you will, not money in their pocket. That's wealthy. Broke means no money in your pocket. Wealthy means a lot. Those could be temporary conditions. But the rich mindset and the poor mindset, those are permanent places. Develop a rich mindset and a continued and ongoing way of changing your attitude, and you realize that the $20 in your purse or your pocket earns zero interest. What's the purpose? Lunch. Dinner,
right?
To do something with it at a later time. But don't ever get confused to think that your retirement account is your emergency fund to put a new roof on, because the government isn't confused. They put amazing provisions wrapped up into that where they said things like, oh, we will penalize you a significant amount. We will spank you financially by taking money out, and we're going to tax it. And if you're under 59 and a half, we're going to assume it's not for retirement, which means you're going to get hit with another penalty or fee.
Right. And how many people make the actual mistake of thinking that they're going to sock money away into their retirement plan and then, oh, by the way, just take it out in 5 or 10 or 15 years and then use it all for their children's college fund?
That's right. That is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They forget the fact that their retirement account and college funds are almost like, oil and water. They are not in the same universe.
Right.
Oh, but Arif, it's the purpose.
It's money.
It was never my money. Oh my gosh, a friend of mine said this recently, and you might think, Arif, couldn't you have influence over your own friends? I guess, a prophet is a villain in his own town or something, however that works. Very simple. I said, and he knows. And he says, oh, for my daughter's college, I've saved money in my retirement account at work, and the purpose of that retirement account is going to be for their college. I said, it's less than half by the time you're done with taxes and penalties and fees. And
sure.
And he says, oh, you know what? It was never really that money that I counted on to begin with. It wasn't really mine. It was, matching, and it was interest. And
wow.
Holy moly. You know what? That kind of thinking, you guys, drives you down a road of not understanding the value of money. Money isn't better. It isn't good. It isn't bad. It's the values you put on it. The poor mindseted person loses money and is always broke because they don't think money matters. Look, I didn't make the rules. You can be mad at me if you want. But 120 years ago, it used to be legal for me to mow your lawn and you cut my hair, or you give Jeff chickens and he cleans, your home, or does your shoemaker, right? That used to be called bartering. Remember? Wheat farmers were not really good raisers of cattle, but you know what? They swapped it, and there was a value. But today, you have to be paid in dollars. It doesn't matter how good you are at your job if you are lousy with money. I don't care if you make $400,000 a year. If you spend $401,000 a year, you're just as broke as somebody who makes $30,000 and spends $30,001. There is no difference. The difference is your ability to step out and realize money does not control you. You control it. It's pretty cool. Like a wise man once told me about driving a car, right? The value of understanding you control the car doesn't control you. How hard is that? Transfer that into everything in your life. You're not a dummy, guys. Somebody paid you money to do something. That means you know what you're doing. All right, follow up with us after the break when we come back. Total Financial Solutions, Save for Money Hour. That's Jeff Gerard, and I'm Arif Halaby. We may have a special guest join us in just a minute. I'm Arif Halaby on AM 1220 KHTS.